feed the flock of God, which is among, in, positioned with you. What I want to bring out here is the exhortation of Peter concerning pastoral leaders in this first portion. The message that I want to give you is simply concerning the heritage of God. Concerning the heritage of God. And the first thing that I'm going to do with is the exhortation of Peter concerning pastoral leaders. Pastoral. Remember that, pastoral. No such word as pastoral. Pastoral. Okay, you're mature now. Pastoral. Everybody say pastoral. The exhortation of Peter concerning pastoral leaders. And so here he says, what you need to do is feed the flock. Pomeno. Pomeno. And this is important. I'm going to give you some Greek because I got to break some things down. Remember, the New Testament was written in Greek. Pomeno. From pomen. And so what he is saying here is what you need to do is take the people to pasture. Pomeno would be the pasture. Pomen would be the one that's taking them to the pasture. The pastor, the shepherd, take them to pasture. There's something that you go to pasture for. You go to pasture. Animals, flock go to pasture to graze. They go to pasture to eat. They need good grass, not dried up grass. They need something that's nutritious. Are you with me here? Feed the flock of God, which is among you. Taking the oversight, the bishopric, taking the oversight thereof. So he's saying, when you do this, I need you to watch them. You watch those people. You need to understand, you have not been placed in a place of celebration, but you are being placed in a position of accountability. And what you're going to be accountable for is souls. He says, I want you to feed them. They are among you. They are positioned with you. And don't do this by force. I'm just doing it because, God made me. God's not going to make you do it. You shouldn't let people make you do it. Feed them. Take the oversight. Not by constraint, but do it willingly, voluntarily, of your own consent. Now, I want to bring something out here. I'm going to go on with the rest of this in a minute, but I want to go on with something here. Go with something. When Peter writes this to those who are the recipients of this letter, they would have an understanding of the responsibilities of a shepherd. In that particular area, the shepherd who watched over the sheep watched out for enemies. Enemies who try to creep in unawares. And in watching, the shepherd warns. Not only does the shepherd warn, but the shepherd protects. Protects. Is that in you? The shepherd protects. The shepherd looks out for the safety and the welfare of the people. Healing, spiritual growth, all of those particular things. He's doing this willingly and not for filthy lucre. Filthy lucre simply speaks of an opportunity for base gain. I once heard a young man say, a young teen, he said, when I grow up, I want to be a pastor and such and such and such and such. He said, because they pay their pastors real good. So he had already examined things. He'd already checked things out. And his idea of the pastorate was gain, i.e. filthy lucre. Am I talking to you in here? It says not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Everybody say a ready mind. I'm building it up now. Willingly. Neither, now watch this, this is important, neither as being lords over God's heritage. As I said, concerning God's heritage. Now, when we look at this, lords, this particular lording over God's heritage has to do with one who brings the people under their power, attempts to get mastery over the people. The pastorate was never intended to be a position for a person to have power over the people. It is a position to equip the people, not to have power over the people. It is a position for empowering the people, not to have power over the people, but to develop the people. Not to have power over the people, but to lead the people to a place of deliverance. Are you understanding me up in here? I mean, he says why? This is God's heritage. In other words, this is God's portion. He paid a price for it. And you know what the price was, so I don't need to go into that. And so there are those who have been chosen, and they're now saved. They belong to God, and these individuals will experience eternal blessings with God. And God says, don't you try to dominate my people. Instead, be an example, or an example, a tupus. An example speaks of something for you to imitate. Can I give a people a picture of Christ to imitate? Well, first, if I'm going to do it, I've got to put on the icon. I've got to put on the image of Christ. And then if I put on the image of Christ, now I can say mimetes. I can say imitate me or follow me as I follow Christ. 1 Corinthians 11:1. I should be giving you an example, something for you to see in my faith walk. How do I deal with the crises? How do I deal with pressure? How do I deal with trouble? How do I communicate with people? What is my prayer life? What is my study life like? Have I ever been in a mess and got up out of it trusting God? I need to see something because if I can see something in your life, I can respect you enough to follow the life that you're living because it looked just like Jesus. Oh, somebody give God some praise in here. Somebody give God some praise in here. I'm about that. Eventually, there is going to be there's going to be an apocalypse. There's going to be a revealing or a revelation of the archipome, the chief shepherd, the head of the church, Jesus Christ. Eventually, he's going to show himself to us. And for the leaders, the word says, he shall give him a crown of glory that fadeth not away. Now, I know we like gold and all that kind of stuff, and sometimes we do the little, illustrations, and we bring the golden crown. But this is not metal. This is greenery. It fadeth not away. Are you flowing with me here? And if you are familiar with, I believe it's the, if I can think of it on my head, I believe it's the amaranth plant, if I have any horticulturists in here. That's a plant that doesn't fade away. And even if you were to like pluck a piece off and you would moisten it, it would spring back up. And this would be given to the victors when they were in certain sports events. They would receive this crown, this wreath for being victorious. So he said, if you carry this out and you overcome, listen, understand that when you lead, you've got to be an overcomer. Because there are things that are going to come your way, and you're going to have to say, listen, is it worth it? You're going to have to say, what example will this give the people? There are some rights that you got to give up. There are some things that you're going to go through that do not feel real good, and it don't make any sense holding a meeting telling the people why you got fleshly and secular and you couldn't hold out and rather suffer in your flesh. So now watch this. I'm giving you some things here. This is not a beat up. This is a get ready, get ready. Somebody say this is a get ready. Now, Peter was not the only one who gave an exhortation. As Paul finished his ministry in Ephesus, he gives an exhortation to the elders, the presbyteros that are in Ephesus, and he speaks to them as pastor leaders. And what he says to them is this in Acts 20:28. He says, take heed therefore unto yourselves. That's the second exhortation. It is imperative that the pastoral leader takes heed unto himself. What does this say? Give attention to yourself. I'm not talking about brushing your teeth, combing your hair, taking a shower. Okay, we see that in Ephesians chapter 5. No man never hateth himself, but he cherishes and nourishes himself. We know you do those things, but I'm speaking about your spiritual edification. You got to be watchful when it comes to you. Some of us are so busy trying to build up a ministry until we're getting torn down. You've got to take care of your spiritual growth. When I give you something spiritual, I am giving you something that I have experienced. I'm not giving you something that I went in a bookstore and pulled down.